The rain was the kind that blurred everything into one endless sheet of water, hammering the windshield so hard I could barely see the shape of the bridge above me. I had pulled over under its shadow to get my bearings, telling myself it was just for a minute until the storm eased. But the moment my tires touched the darker patch of road beneath that arch, it felt like I had crossed into somewhere else. The air was heavier here. Even with the windows rolled up, I could hear the rain changing its rhythm, like something beneath the storm was trying to make itself heard. I sat in the driver's seat, fingers tapping nervously on the steering wheel, when the first knock came. It was slow, deep, and deliberate, a sound that cut through the rain like it didn't belong to this world. I froze, staring at the roof of my car, the wipers still dragging across the glass in their tired, squeaking arc. The second knock came louder this time, and it sent a tremor through the frame of the car. My breath fogged up the inside of the windshield, the air inside suddenly colder than it had been a moment ago. The third knock came softer than the others, but closer, as if it was no longer on the roof but somewhere just above my head. And with it came a thought. I didn't want to believe a whisper in my own mind that didn't sound like my voice at all. It's already too late. They say the bridge was built in the late 1800s, back when men worked with their bare hands, and accidents were just another part of the job. But what happened here wasn't the kind of accident anyone could walk away from. His name was Daniel Hurst, a quiet man, who took the job because it was the only work that paid enough to keep his family fed through the winter. One night, as the others finished for the day, Daniel stayed behind to prepare the foundation for the morning's concrete pour. No one knows exactly what happened next, but by dawn, the pillar had been sealed, and Daniel was gone. The foreman said he must have fallen in, that no one realized until it was too late. But men who worked that night told a different story in hushed voices over whiskey and cigarettes. They said they heard him calling, his voice echoing up through the hollow column, begging to be pulled out. And they said the foreman ignored it, told them to keep working, told them to seal the concrete. Now the story is part of the town's blood. They say Daniel never left the bridge, that he's still inside, still knocking from the dark. Some claim the knocks are just the bridge settling in the cold, but others swear they've heard it, 3 slow raps that follow you until you're out of sight. Locals won't drive under it after sundown. The ones who do don't linger. And a few the ones who parked there at night, well, no one ever saw their cars leave. I had always considered myself fearless, but the story of this bridge felt different. I first heard it while sitting in an old village cafe, its dim light flickering against cracked walls. Across from me sat an old man, his face lined with age, his voice low and steady. He told me, "If you ever cross the bridge at night, never stop." No matter what happens, I chuckled, but he didn't smile. His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that lingered long after he stopped speaking. That night I made up my mind I would see for myself. The next evening, the sky was heavy with clouds, rain dripping softly onto the asphalt. I switched on my recorder and stepped onto the center of the bridge. The silence around me was unnerving, so complete it felt unnatural. Then faintly, almost swallowed by the static of the rain, a voice slipped into my headphones. It was a whisper, ragged and urgent. "Don't stop here." Before I could react, the bridge beneath my feet shuddered, not from passing cars, there were none, but as if something inside the stone itself was moving, straining to get out. The next morning I sat in my small apartment with the blinds drawn, the world outside muted by the heavy rain still falling. The air inside felt thick, almost damp, and the faint smell of wet concrete seemed to cling to me. My recorder sat on the table, its little red light blinking as if impatient for me to press play. I hesitated for a long moment, my hand hovering over the button, before finally giving in. The first few seconds were nothing but static and the distant hiss of rain. But then it came, that same voice from the night before. Only now, listening in the safety of daylight, I realized it was saying something different. The words were warped, like they had been dragged backwards through the tape. I played it again, reversing the audio in my mind, and my stomach twisted when the meaning clicked. The voice was saying, "Help me." A coldness spread through my chest, but curiosity kept my finger on the button. I turned the volume higher and leaned in until the sound filled my head. That's when I heard it faint, almost hidden under the first voice. Another whisper, softer but far more unsettling, like it was meant for someone standing right behind me. It said he is still here. The room suddenly felt smaller. The shadows in the corners seemed darker than before, and even though I was alone, I could not shake the feeling that someone else was in the room listening to the same recording, breathing in the same air. That night, the rain was heavier than I had ever seen. Each drop slammed into the bridge's rusting metal like the ticking of some ancient clock counting down. I parked my car in the exact same spot as before, engine still running, the headlights casting pale beams into the mist. The air was thick and cold, each breath escaping as a ghostly cloud. I had come for one thing, undeniable proof. I set up my recorder and camera, keeping my eyes fixed on the concrete pillar where the legend said the man had been buried alive. At first there was only silence, broken only by the rain's endless tapping. Then it started, 3 loud, deliberate knocks above me. My pulse quickened. Another knock came, but this time from the left side, then from the right, then from behind. The sound was moving fast, circling me in an impossible rhythm. The knocks grew frantic, pounding like fists against a coffin's lid. My breath caught in my throat. The camera's small lens reflected my own pale, terrified face. But then, for the briefest moment, there was another face there. Mud-caked skin, hollow eyes staring straight into mine, lips slightly parted as if about to speak. I spun around, but the space behind me was empty, only the dripping concrete and the black mouth of the underpass. My hands shook as I grabbed the camera somewhere deep inside the stone. Something scraped against the walls, slow and deliberate, like fingernails dragging toward the surface. And in that suffocating moment, I knew I was not alone and never had been. The rain poured relentlessly, soaking everything in a curtain of icy water. The wind screamed through the metal beams above, making the entire bridge groan as if it were alive. My flashlight flickered in my hand, the beam cutting across the glistening surface of the bridge's pillar. I could hear it again, the knocking. It wasn't like before this time. Each thud was deep, heavy, and hollow, as though someone was slamming their fists from inside a coffin buried within the concrete. 3 knocks, then silence, then 3 more, faster, angrier. The sound began to circle me, moving from one pillar to the next, as if whatever was trapped inside was searching or hunting. My breath came out in uneven bursts, misting in the freezing air. I tightened my grip on the camera, its red recording light blinking like a heartbeat. Then the knocking grew so loud I could feel it in my chest. I stumbled backward, my boots slipping on the slick surface. That's when I saw it, in the camera's LCD screen, just for a split second. The reflection of a face, pale, mud-caked, with eyes wide open, as if drowning in darkness, staring right over my shoulder. My scream caught in my throat. My hands shook violently and the camera slipped from my grasp, clattering to the wet ground. The lens landed facing the pillar, still recording. I bent down to snatch it up, but a sudden blast of freezing wind froze me in place. Through the lens, I saw nothing. Nothing except the slow, muffled knocking coming from deep inside the concrete. Would you stop your car under this bridge? Subscribe to Mr. Dreadmoor if you dare.